UFC, Tim Kennedy, Rafael Natal, Liz Carmouche, Alexis Davis, and the rest of the Fight for the Troops competitors when the UFC weigh-in returns on Fox Sports 2.
I got you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Check, 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 check.
The UFC, the world leader in MMA. Experience it on Fox Sports 2.
Hello, Fort Campbell.
Can you hear me now? Okay, yeah. You know what? I thought I was going on the single on that one spiel. You didn't say single, but I assumed I was on it. I saw the stage manager pointing over to that camera. I thought she meant single, so we switched to it halfway through.
The UFC, the world leader in MMA. Experience it on Fox Sports 2.
Hello, Fort Campbell, home of the only air assault division in the world, the 101st Airborne. They lay it all on the line for us, and tomorrow some of the sport's finest will throw down for them in the UFC Fight for the Troops. Headlining the card is Tim Kennedy, a decorated member of the U.S. Army who is a Ranger-qualified Special Forces sniper and former Green Beret. He'll be fighting in his first UFC main event before thousands of his fellow servicemen and women here in Kentucky. But standing in the soldier's way is rising contender Rafael Natal. The BJJ black belt has won 3 straight and believes he'll score 4 here at Fort Campbell. Before they battle it out in the octagon tomorrow, they'll hit the scale today. This is the UFC weigh-in, and it starts now. Weigh-in is brought to you by Rise, Son of Rome, only on Xbox One, available November 22nd. Hello and welcome everybody to our Fox Sports desk here in Fort Campbell. Set of chairs anyway, Brian at the very least. Karen Bryan here, and who better to co-host this weigh-in with than former Marine Corps officer and retired UFC warrior, the All-American Brian Stan. Good to see you.
Well, thanks so much, Karen. It's great to see you. You know, I've been on base all day visiting with the troops, and they're so excited. Look, they're behind us. These guys cannot wait for these fights tomorrow night. It's
going to be a great night. Brian, tomorrow's show is pretty special as the UFC has teamed with the United States Armed Forces in an effort to give back. And, of course, during tomorrow's broadcast on Fox Sports 1, you guys, the fans, are going to have an opportunity to donate to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. And, Brian, if you could tell the people why this cause is so special and near dear to your heart.
Well, you know, I know veterans that are receiving the benefits of the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. I've been to the centers that they've built, and it is incredible. It's state-of-the-art, and it's helping to rehabilitate these men and women from the head injuries they sustained from these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I can't tell you how many of the men and women I serve with personally are utilizing their services. It's incredible.
All right, I'm glad we can help. Let's dive right now, though, into the Fight for the Troops headliner, where Tim Kennedy meets Rafael Natal. Now, these are 2 middleweights making their first appearance in a UFC main event, and Tim Kennedy in particular, of course, looking to put a show on here in Fort Campbell.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. His heart is in this. This is the biggest opportunity of his career, and he was ecstatic to get the call to be in this main event. He is a crushing guy when he gets on top of you. Very good wrestling with underrated striking, and he's looking to put on a more aggressive performance than he has in his past. There have been fights that were close, fights that he feels he's lost just due to the fact that he wasn't as aggressive as he should be.
Well, let's talk about his opponent, Rafael Natal. fourth win of 2013 here in Kentucky. What's been the key to his recent surge?
Well, you know, his recent surge is due to the fact that he's more well-rounded. When he first came to the UFC, he was primarily a Jiu-Jitsu guy. Now he's got great ground and pound. He's really improved his wrestling, and his striking, although it's unorthodox, is very effective. He hits you with things that you don't see coming. A very unpredictable fighter.
Training with Renzo Gracie is doing him good, huh?
Yeah, it never hurts to train with one of those legends.
Well, for more on this action-packed military event, let's check in with the third member of our broadcast team here on site at Fort Campbell, and that is, of course, the one and only Ariel Helwani. Ariel?
Guys, according to the UFC, the first two Fight for the Troops events raised over $14 million for the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. This time around, once again, they have set up an online auction. Proceeds going to that charity and the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. And I got to tell you, some of the prizes at stake here are pretty darn amazing. Dinner with UFC President Dana White, to cornering your favorite fighter, to training with Anderson Silva. You can go online right now, UFCFightForTheTroops.com, to bid on some of those great prizes and many, many more. The auction ends at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday night. Now, there are 4,000 plus members of the military and their family members expected to watch this event on Wednesday night. The UFC tells me all of them will be watching it for free, and there are 4 fighters on the card with military ties. Tim Kennedy, of course, Liz Carmouche, Neil Magny, and Colton Smith. Tim Kennedy telling me that when he got this call, he was overwhelmed with joy. It's already the best moment of his career, and he said, quote, Rafael Natal will pretty much have to kill me if he wants to beat me in front of my brothers and sisters in arms. It all goes down right here tomorrow night, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Ariel. And Brian, if you could articulate what it feels like as a soldier to come back here and fight for your fellow men and women.
Well, normally when we see Tim Kennedy fight, it's in the octagon in a normal arena, and that's Tim Kennedy, the athlete. You know, what we're looking at now is Tim Kennedy, the warrior. He knows these men and women behind us have lost friends in battle. They continue to deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan. Tim's been there as well. He knows what he has to do tomorrow night to truly honor them, and that's what he sees this fight as. It's his way to honor them for their sacrifices and service.
You know, we're going to see a lot of action, I think also some emotion tomorrow night. Should be pretty special. Well, the brave men and women of the United States military make incredible sacrifices for all of us serving our country overseas, so please show your support to those who need it most, the ones who return home as wounded heroes. You'll be able to donate tomorrow through the number on your screen, or just go to UFCFightForTheTroops.com for more information. Now it's time to pose our Twitter poll question, who will win the main event? To vote, just tweet #TeamKennedy or #TeamNatal. We'll have results later on in the show. Coming up next, the fighters step up to the scale. See Tim Kennedy, Rafael Natal, Liz Carmouche, Alexis Davis, and the rest of the Fight for the Troops competitors when the UFC weigh-in returns on Fox Sports 2.
Phenomenal shape for his life.
Brian Stan and Ariel Hawani joining us here on set as we take you through today's weigh-ins from Fort Campbell. It is time to make tomorrow's Fight for the Troops official. So let's toss it to the stage where Mike Goldberg will get us started. Go ahead, take it away, Goldie.
What's going on, Fort Campbell? Great to be here. Beautiful Chrissy and Vanessa. John Shelby, our great matchmaker. Burt Watson, babysitter to the stars. Thank you, men and women of the U.S. military. Thank you for what you do for us. Let's get this weigh-in going. Our first fight tomorrow night is in the middleweight division. Derek Brunson fighting Brian Houston.
Brian Houston now making his way to the scale.
Houston, quite the athlete. Former indoor football player for the great Omaha Beef, that amazing franchise. Also, 1-0-1 in his boxing career. So this is a guy who has dabbled in other sports. In fact, in 2009, during the off-season of his indoor football season, he just wanted to try something out, did MMA, and said, forget about it, football, I'm going to do some fighting for the rest of my life.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ariel, he looks huge for the weight class, long reach, very big legs. You know, going against a wrestler like Derek Brunson, that can make it tougher to get taken down.
And we should mention that is his UFC debut.
You know, it's interesting. Derek Brunson, I've trained with him many years out of Jackson's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Strange, he didn't use that location for his camp. He stayed in Wilmington, North Carolina for the first time in years. We'll see how that plays out for his performance tomorrow night.
Bad luck Brunson. This is a guy who, you know, he beat Chris Lieben in his debut, but he was supposed to fight in June. His opponent gets into a car accident the day of the weigh-ins, gets injured prior to UFC 164. He hasn't fought in 2013, so looking to get some kind of momentum here.
Well, you know, speaking of bad luck, and he gets a guy who's only 4-0. A lot of unknowns about Houston.
You would think a guy nicknamed the Polish Pistola, the mean guy, but in 2009, he was actually named the nicest guy in his gym. Looking to get back on track, though, has lost his last 2 in a row.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ariel. I'm not sure if that's the compliment you want, but we'll take it.
It's the time.
You know, when I was backstage and you'd have guys like this that would take off an entire outfit, and I was back there thirsty and hungry, I wanted to hurt them physically.
The infamous Nick Diaz jeans.
That's tough. He's off by a pound, so now he's going to have an hour to try and cut that pound if he chooses to, or he can give up a percentage of his purse. But let's see. I have seen pairs of underwear that weigh a pound, so let's see.
He seems surprised as well.
$171 for set position.
What did I tell you?
There you go.
Happened to me before. I had to go behind the cloth, and I magically had a pair of underwear that weighed a pound. You can see the look of relief. There's nothing worse than missing weight. You are a professional. You do not want to miss weight.
His opponent, Magny.
This is special for Neil Magny. 7 years in the Army, all Army combative champion, all guard combative champion. This is a guy who obviously means a lot for him to be fighting in a scene like this.
You know, you're exactly right, and he had a tough outing in his last fight. He fought down in Brazil against a guy named Sergio Moraes, who's one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world. He got submitted quickly and really just didn't feel like he got a chance to get going in that fight. Now is the perfect opportunity for him to showcase his full skill set.
Welterweight battle, Neil Magny and Seth Baczynski. In the lightweight division, Eve Edwards against Yancy Medeiros.
Guys, I'm about to blow your minds. All right, you ready? This will be the 2,477th fight in UFC history. But it will be the first time that two fighters with a first name beginning with the letter Y will square off inside the octagon. How about that? That according to Fight Metric, by the way.
My mind is blown, Karen.
Blown. And other news, Yancy Medeiros thanks Nate and Nick Diaz for helping him with his conditioning. He used to be a 185er, and they basically changed his life, taught him a lot about nutrition, proper training. He owes a lot to them.
Wow, well, you look at him physically, he is certainly in shape, ready for this fight.
Loves to eat while weighing in and kind of play with his opponent. This will be his 19th UFC fight. Man made his UFC debut back in September of 2001. Big show in Las Vegas, the ill-fated UFC 33.
He's an incredible fighter, once believed to be the best lightweight in the world. This is a guy that I actually used to watch when I was in the Marine Corps back in 2006 and 2007. I would mimic the combinations he threw on a heavy bag trying to teach myself mixed martial arts.
Nice little gift. Everyone's in a giving mood.
What a great lightweight fight. Eve Edwards and Yancy Medeiros.
I would have taken one of the Doritos personally.
In the middleweight division, Camozzi against Lorenz, the Monsoon Larkin.
It's a big fight for Lorenz Larkin. Has a lot of potential. Lots of controversial fights. In his UFC debut back in April to Francis Carmon, but he has to put it together. It wasn't a very exciting fight. It's a guy that a lot of people are high on, but we need to see some aggression out of him tomorrow night.
You know, it was difficult. In that fight against Francis Carmon, he struggled with the range because Francis Carmon had such a big reach. Camozzi has a similar reach. We're going to see. Has Lorenz Larkin been able to build up that performance and evolve? He is certainly fighting with a chip on his shoulder.
buzz about him.
An amazing quote from Camozzi. Someone asked him, has he met any heroes? Does he have any heroes in his life? This is what he said, quote, I regret to say I have not met any heroes other than those serving in the military. Obviously, this is a big deal for him.
It really is. Chris is one of those guys. He's another guy. He's the nicest guy in the gym, all class inside the octagon and out.
Returns to Fox Sports 1 this Friday with Camping World Truck Series racing from Phoenix as Matt Crafton looks to expand his lead atop the standings. Coverage of Camping World Truck Series racing begins Friday at 8 Eastern only on Fox Sports 1.
You know, Duran to me is a huge bantamweight in this division. Could be the key in this fight as she's going to fight Amanda Nunes, who wants to certainly get this to the floor. Duran to me 37-0 as a professional kickboxer.
136 for Jermaine Durandamy. And her opponent, Amanda "The Lioness" Nunes.
We'll never forget her knocking out Julia Budd in just 14 seconds. Looks fantastic in her UFC debut back in August. Really seems to have found her way at 135. This was someone that a lot of people back in the day thought could beat Chris Cyborg, and now she's coming into her own. A very important fight right here in the women's bantamweight division, and she's repping Brazil.
You know, I had the opportunity to call her last fight against Sheila Gapp. Extraordinarily aggressive fighter, very focused and very motivated. Impressive young woman.
Somewhat scary as well.
I gotta tell you guys, that fight is gonna be bananas. I cannot wait. I love when the ladies get after it.
It's our first fight on Fox Sports 1 prelim. Amanda Nunes and Jermaine Durandamy. Next up in the featherweight division, Dennis "The Menace" Bermudez against Super Steven Siler. From the pit, Steven Siler.
Steven Siler had a great showing in August, Ariel. What's new with him?
Yeah, that was actually the tie for the 5th fastest knockout in WEC/UFC featherweight history. A lot of people forget about this when talking about Steven Siler. He's a graduate of that Tap Out reality show. Remember that show back in the day? He was on that show.
You know, he also falls in the category of the kid that you played Little League with, and you're like on TV, wait a minute, this kid fights now?
Lucky number 13 for Siler, 13 submission wins, 13 opponents finished in the first round. winner right here, Dennis Bermudez. What can you tell us?
Well, this kid's electric, all excitement all the time. I actually wrestled with a friend of mine, George Hickman, at University of Bloomsburg in Pennsylvania. Very good collegiate wrestler. But as we know now, he's a bonus hog here in the UFC.
Absolutely.
Another interesting thing, both these guys were on Team Miller back on The Ultimate Fighter season 14. And a lot of talk about the fights of the year. People forget, Dennis Bermudez versus Max Rice very well might be the fight of the year.
It was an incredible, incredible performance by both guys.
.146 for the Ultimate Fighter finalist, Dennis Bermudez. Great featherweight fight, Dennis Bermudez and Super Steven Styler. In the bantamweight division, George Root and Francisco Rivera. Please welcome Francisco Rivera to the scale.
Fox College Thursday, presented by K Jewelers, returns with an epic Big 12 showdown between national championship contenders as the 10th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners head to Waco to take on the 6th-ranked Baylor Bears. Coverage begins Thursday at 7 Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1.
Rivera loving luck these days. He was released from the UFC in 2011. Since then, undefeated in his last 5, undefeated in his last 3 in the UFC, and recently got a 4-fight new contract from the UFC.
And one of the heaviest-handed bantamweights in the division.
Right now, so we'll get the towel. .136 for Francisco Rivera.
Feel happy for the tallest bantamweight in the UFC. This is a guy who in 2009 lost his son. A month later fought. That win got him into WEC. He's been bouncing around different divisions, but 2-0 since going down to 135, and he's looking really good.
And he certainly showed he can handle the weight cut. Look at the reach difference between him and Francisco. I mean, this is going to be serious tomorrow night to see how well George Root can do with a power puncher of this stature.
.135.5 for George Root.
I mentioned Rivera is one of the hardest punchers in this division. Look at the reach advantage owned by George Root.
As well as the height advantage. Almost a full head.
Tomorrow night on Fox Sports 1, George Root and Francisco Rivera. In the lightweight division, King Bobby Green against James Krause. James Krause.
Ariel, James is what we call a finisher, taking out his opponent in 18 of 20 wins.
Guys, this is my people's main event. James Krause looked fantastic in his first fight in the UFC back in June. Submitted Sam Stout, won 2 bonuses, 100K. He's been bouncing around, hoping to get a shot in the UFC, and had one of the best debuts in recent memory.
Well, I'll tell you what, Errol, you could be right. This could be an incredible matchup. Bobby Green is one of those rare type of athletes who makes such big jumps fight to fight the skill level.
This is a big deal for Bobby Green. He actually wanted to be a part of the military, but just a couple days in, got into a fight and was discharged. He's grown up a lot. He's been through a lot. Had a great debut against Jacob Boakman. Has suffered through some injuries as of late, but he feels like he has to almost make his debut all over again because everyone has forgotten about him. This fight is so important to him, he actually turned off his phone. He didn't want to be bothered, wanted to focus on the fight. I think it's going to be fantastic.
155 for Bobby Green. The lightweight battle, Bobby Green and Krause. Our first fight on the main card tomorrow night on Fox Sports 1 in the lightweight division. The U.S. Army's own Ultimate Fighter winner, Colton Smith, against Michael Maverick Chiesa. Please welcome fellow Ultimate Fighter winner, Michael Chiesa.
This week, UFC Fight Night returns to Fox Sports 1 with 2 events beginning tomorrow with UFC Fight for the Troops, including Green Beret Tim Kennedy and former Marine Liz Carmouche. Then Saturday, it's an explosive light heavyweight showdown between 2 UFC legends as Vitor Belfort takes on Dan Henderson. UFC Fight Night coverage starts tomorrow at 5, then Saturday at 8.
156 for Michael Chiesa.
Only on Fox Sports 1. That was 156 for Michael Chiesa.
The U.S. Army Ranger, the active soldier, the Ultimate Fighter winner, Colton Smith.
I mean, Mike Goldberg just said it. Active duty staff sergeant Colton Smith. This guy takes personal days to go train. Making his lightweight debut, went to Jackson's. Looking forward to a big showing out of him. I mean, if this guy's not a fan favorite tomorrow night, who is?
Well, I had a chance to visit with him before the weigh-ins. He says he feels great. This being his first drop to lightweight, he used George Lockhart's system to cut the weight, the same one I've used. I know he probably feels incredible. But the opportunity to leave, get off base, go train at a legitimate camp like Greg Jackson could mean some serious jumps in his skill level.
He says fighting is awesome, but it's easy compared to the rigors of war. He knows he gets flack for saying things like that, but he truly believes this is just fun compared to what he has to do in his day job.
155 and a half. 155 and a half for Colton Smith.
Greatest suplexes I have ever seen in my life.
There's a lot of love for Khabilov right now in the MMA community. You talk to anyone at Jackson, and they say this guy is going to one day be a UFC champion. He is a former international master of sports in Sambo, a former international master of sports in hand-to-hand combat. Like Karen said, he throws people around like rag dolls. It's amazing.
Well, you could add my name to that list. I've trained with him at Jackson's. I'm one of the guys who got suplexed by him his first day there, along with everybody else in the camp. He's incredibly talented.
Once KO slammed an opponent in 8 seconds.
Seems like a happy guy too, Brian.
He's a competitor. He loves it.
is actually one guy who isn't all that impressed with Khabilov. Said he didn't watch any of his tape, not all that high on him. But Masvidal has matured a lot. Again, another guy who's bounced around. This is a guy who used to eat brownies for breakfast, but now has cut back on his diet a little bit and has looked very good in his last 2 UFC fights. His first 2 UFC fights. Finally, a veteran gets to shine here in the UFC.
Yeah, this is one of those style matchups that I found it interesting. You said he didn't watch any tape. The caliber of wrestler that Rustam is, that could be a huge mistake.
155.5 for Jorge Masvidal. That is a great fight for the troops. Jorge Masvidal.
I think he was saying, what's your address? I want you on my Christmas list.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I think it was actually more around what Ariel was talking about, some of the comments Masvidal made about Russia.
In the middleweight division, Honey Marcus by Joel Soldier of God Romero. Joel Romero first to the scale.
The new season of The Ultimate Fighter is powerful, relentless, and epic. Catch the show critics say delivers the goods and see why they call Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate the new best rivalry in sports. Watch an all-new episode of The Ultimate Fighter tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1.
His flying knee knockout back in April in his UFC debut might be the knockout of the year. This guy won a silver medal in the Olympics, actually beat the legendary Cael Sanderson 3 times in freestyle competition. He's a tremendous wrestler, and he has looked very good since going down to 185.
Yeah, I've spoken to numerous wrestlers about this guy. They can't stop talking about how incredible an athlete he is.
This was the guy that Derek Brunson was supposed to fight back in June, but got into that car accident just hours before the weigh-in. Very honest stuff out of Hani going into this fight. Says he's been playing it safe. Now he's finally ready to unleash the beast. Now he's ready to show the UFC what he's all about. I'm looking forward to that.
You know, I'll tell you what, I did the show when he had his first fight against Aaron Simpson. I was extremely impressed with this man. His wrestling, his striking, he wasn't that aggressive, but if he puts it all together, he can be very dangerous. However, this is a tough matchup against a legitimate world-class wrestler.
The Canadian coming to a setting like this to fight a former Marine. But she is one of those fighters that a lot of people think has the style who could one day beat Ronda Rousey. She admits she was very nervous in her UFC debut back in June. I think this is going to be a fantastic fight.
You know, both fighters are similar, but Alexis Davis is extraordinarily talented. Very good skills on the ground. Solid stand-up, solid in the clinch game. The question is, could she deal with the strength of Liz Carmouche?
couple of weeks ago. They forget that Liz Carmouche beat her up badly back in July. My favorite story of the year might be that after her fight against Ronda Rousey, a furniture store in San Diego donated a ton of new furniture just because they loved her story so much. She's an inspiration and one of the very best and most underrated fighters in the UFC.
All right, thank you very much, Ariel, for your input during the weigh-ins. You're going to go backstage now and try to secure some interviews, right?
I will do that. Thank you, guys.
Brian, we've got a gun show here at the military base.
And we talked about her strength. Very impressive.
135 for Liz Carmouche. Let's take a closer look at the two fighters in our main event, brought to you by Rise, Son of Rome, only on Xbox One, coming November 22nd.
I love feeling guys physically and mentally break.
Huge shot by Tim Kennedy. You can hear that one. Tim just took Hodger down. Look at this. Again.
Once they break, I can start pouring it on.
He is absolutely relentless with this attack.
I can physically and mentally break Rafael. 25 minutes is a long time to try to hang with me. I'll be on him the whole entire fight.
I hope so. I don't like these fights, you know. I'm a tough guy. I never give up, and he's gonna have the worst time in the cage in his life against me.
Oh! Big right hand! Perfect shot!
Not gonna be easy fight. I think Kenneth never was submitted, but I think I will.
He's got it. He might have it. He's tagging.
Rafael Natal is dangerous. You know, he has powerful hands, he has fantastic wrestling, but all the things that he does well, I'm really good at neutralizing. To be on the Fight for the Troops card 3, after being so long in Special Forces and serving 10 years in the Army, that's a huge honor.
He's one of the best in the world. I'm ready, you know, I waited for this opportunity for all of my life. Now I have, I'm gonna win for sure.
Big combination connects again.
This one's gonna be a war. Maybe one of the best fights in this year.
This is as good as we've ever seen him.
I hope that he comes ready. It would take a special person to be able to survive what I am going to be putting on him. And nobody has been able to hang, and I don't think it's going to be any different with him.
Rafael Natal is a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Brian, and he looks spectacular against Andrew Krause.
You know, it's interesting, though. He's going to be best served in this fight keeping it standing. And a lot of people may say I'm crazy to say that, but when Tim Kennedy gets on top of you, I've seen him make world-class Jiu-Jitsu practitioners look bad. He's that heavy. Natal owns a reach advantage. He's more unpredictable. He will throw with everything he has to try and knock you out. He's very aggressive. I think that's his best game plan to come into this fight. Try and hit Kennedy with something that he doesn't see coming.
He's had 4 weeks to train, relatively short notice. How does he look to you?
You know, he looks like he's in shape. He's a guy, I've trained with him before. He trains year-round. He's never in or out of camp. He's a full-time mixed martial artist.
185 and a half for Rafael.
He was originally scheduled to fight Ed Herman at 167, so I guess he was close to being in shape anyway when he got that call. Servicemen and women. What can you tell us about Tim Kennedy?
Well, I can tell you a lot. He is an extremely good athlete who has yet got to showcase his best skills in the octagon yet and put forth that all-in fight, showcasing all of his skills. You see the physical difference. He is extremely strong. He's short and compact, but his dexterity is through the roof. He can do splits. He can grapple and get out of certain positions, but he is very, very heavy on top.
For Tim Kennedy.
Much, Mike, as we welcome you at home. Tim Kennedy there, of course, very happy to be here back on base. He feels so at home here, Brian.
Well, he does. I mean, he served with many of these men and women. He's saying hi to families that he knows. He served 10 years. He's deployed with some of these men and women. It's very personal tomorrow night to Tim Kennedy. A lot of pressure on him.
Is there any chance, though, Brian, of an emotional adrenaline dump before this?
You know, there is, but Tim's got so much experience, not only in the octagon, but I mean, you're talking about a guy who's a special forces sniper. Little different emotional dump.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a heck of a fight tomorrow night. We want to thank you for staying with us for the weigh-ins. And now, Brian, it's time to get into the strike zone. Let's really break it down how these guys